Widiarso. Welcome to the online show you've been waiting for. Yep, 3WTC. What's wrong with this city? And today we have four stunning guests and we will discuss sports-related issues. Okay, let's get to the show. Wait a minute. Before we start the discussion, I will introduce our four guests. In
Ladies and gentlemen,
1.
When marimba rhythms start to play, dance with me, make me sway.
Okay, after I introduce the guests, straight away, I will spill our topic today to you guys. Yeah, very interesting, right? Okay. So, I will call the first guest, Laras. What do you think about the topic?
Hello everyone, my name is Laras and I'm so grateful that I was offered the opportunity to come on this show today on behalf of the parents of athletic students everywhere. My kid has been wanting to become an ice hockey athlete since she was a little kid, and like any good and supportive parents, it is my job to support her dreams emotionally and financially. Today I'm here to show that I do agree with the motion of how people in sports should get paid extremely large amounts of money and my reasoning for it. My first reason is athletic training and education programs are expensive. As a parent, I'm responsible for giving my kids the best education she needs to become an athlete. And like any good education, it doesn't come cheap. Based on data from Cost Helper, public colleges that offer athletic training programs, which are rare, average about $5,000 during 2006 until 2007. Meanwhile, private college institutions costs range from $36,800 up to $146,160 for their degree programs. You have to keep in mind that this cost does not include books, supplies, or necessary licensing for them to actually play the sport as a job. Books and supplies average at $900 up to $1,350 per year during 2007 until 2008, totaling nearly $5,400 for the whole 4 years. My second reasoning is expensive athletic equipment for training at home. Now, aside from the basic education necessity, we also need to provide athletic equipment so our kids can train regularly and keep their shape while at home. Basic sporting equipment includes essentials like a training bench, barbell set, pull-up frame and bar, treadmill, and fitness ball. Just the basic essentials alone, the cost could rack up to $1,582. Statistic from MarketWatch even shows that the average American spends $33 billion on athletic equipment every year. From this data, they also found that parents spend more than twice as much as non-parents and on athletic equipment, 46% versus 22% ratio. My third and final reasoning is athletic gear is expensive depending on the sport. Now that we have covered all of the basics such as education and home training essentials, we also cannot forget about the sports gear. Sports gear costs vary depending on what your kids choose to do as a sport. Now, because my daughter chooses to do ice hockey, I'm going to give you an illustration of just how much goes into her sporting gear. In hockey, there is required equipment such as skates, sticks, helmets, shoulder pads, elbow pads, gloves, pants, shin guard, and socks. Based on sideline swap calculation and data, this equipment could cost us around $1,000 for a used one, and up to $2,082 for brand new gear, which they also say that on average, an athlete will spend $600 a year on equipment, which makes sense because athletic gear is used almost every day for practice, so they are bound to wear out or break in shorter times. Because of all these extremely expensive expenses, I firmly believe that athletes should get paid extremely large amounts of money. It takes a lot of effort, dedication, and a large amount of money to be one. Thank you.
Interesting. How about you, Irenne? What do you think about it?
Hello, everyone. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Irenne, a charity worker who certainly fights for poor people in this country. Just like Laras, I'm also grateful to be invited to today's event. But unfortunately, I firmly deny that people in sports should get paid extremely large amounts of money. The first reason why I'm saying this is because it's not an urgency. We must know that when the state spends large amounts of money, it must consider the future of the country. But here, I realized that overpaying athletes is not a mandatory thing to do and not an urgency. I think as a people who often deal with poor people in this country, we better shift the overfunding money to address the problem faced by the poor today, which is an urgency facing the country. Furthermore, in the current pandemic situation where the poor are increasingly battling to survive and struggle for their right to a decent living, I think it's better to divert those funds to social assistance, education, and employee development training for poor people. In addition, this is also supported by Michael L. Rowe's statement, a professor in the Political Science Department and the Institute of the Environment and Sustainability at the University of California, who stated that the government needs to spend more funds to help the poor in this pandemic. The second reason why people in sports shouldn't get paid extremely large amount of money so that money can be diverted to poor people is the necessity for affordable healthcare for poor people. The United Nations has established the Sustainable Development Goals, whose first goal is to end poverty in all its forms everywhere, because at this time, more than 700 million people, or 10% of the world population, still live in extreme poverty, struggling to fulfill the most basic needs like health, education, and access to water and sanitation. For that, wouldn't it be better to divert those funds to support the goal of MUN and maximize the government's funds to help the poor, especially to help them in the health sector, which in this pandemic situation is certainly those who are at greater risk for disease given the unworthy life, rather than the excessively paid athletes who are already prosperous. Instead of wasting funds on some athletes, I actually think it's better to spend them to prosper the poor so that they can live a decent life in this world and be able to develop their potential as much as they have. The last reason is that the transfer of funds will minimize the adverse effect caused by high poverty in the country. As I said earlier, there is still 10% of the world's population who haven't lived properly. So this doesn't rule out the possibility that for the sake of their life, they can do anything, including criminal acts. Criminal acts such as theft are committed because they are unable to meet their needs. So this is where the role of the government is to provide facilities that can develop their capabilities so they can work. This is also supported by a journal entitled Poverty as One of the Causes of the Emergence of Crime by Yayu Sugiarti, a lecturer from Faculty of Law, University of Wiraja Sumeneb, who explained that poverty is one of the reasons for crimes. So the government needs to work with us, the charity workers, to help these poor people so that they can live and eat properly. In my opinion, this will certainly reduce cases of theft based on the need that is not fulfilled. Therefore, it is vital to redirect sports funding to focus on social concerns such as poverty alleviation, because we as charity workers believe that the funds supplied by the government today need to be increased, considering we still have long steps to end poverty. In the end, keep in mind that I'm not saying that all the sports funding should be diverted to eradicate poverty. I just want athletes to get paid as needed instead of overdoing it. So it seems like a waste of money. Athletes may be regarded brand ambassadors for a nation. Therefore, they are highly prized by the country when they achieve a goal. But keep in mind that the government should also not overdo spending money on sports and should always consider important issues such as poor people in the country.
Wow, that sounds very cool and clever. How about you, Azkia?
Hello everyone, thank you for inviting me today. I'm really grateful for that. First, let me introduce myself. My name is Azkia and I am a freelance journalist that works for several tabloids and newspapers. Well, for today's topic, are the athletes getting paid too much? This subject is certainly one that sparked debates amongst people for a long time, just like Miss Lauren and Miss Irenne before me. They have different arguments about that. As for myself, I have to agree with Miss Irenne. Yes, they are paid too much. These are the reasons for my statement. First, I think the money given to the athletes could be used for more probable causes. Like what Miss Irene said before me, thank you Miss Irene for elaborating about this. There were more things that required more urgency. As a journalist, I often travel to countries with poverty. The people there live in poor condition. Famine and plague are haunting them. Yet their misery is shadowed. The money spent on athletes should be spent on them instead. They needed the mass. 2. Let's talk about these athletes as role models. When I asked the children in the neighborhood yesterday for their future plans, a lot of them answered that they want to be an athlete. It is a reflection that for generations, children have aspired to become professional athletes. They idolize them, want to be like them. Not only the children, other fans on the world, I think, feel the same. The tabloids and newspaper where I work have this column that gives a sneak peek about famous people's lives. Some of these people are professional athletes, and some of them have glamorous lifestyle. They can afford with their overpaid money. Personally, I don't think this kind of hedonism is a good role model. Don't you think so too? 3, and I think this is the most important, in today's society, one should be paid according to the job's economic importance and their value to society. If we talk about the most important occupation, one of them is teaching. It is really important because our future relies on the education of the youth. They are fundamental in building the structure of a greater future. Yet, the teachers are paid much less than the average professional athletes. In fact, each basket the late Kobe Bryant scored in his game is equivalent to a yearly salary for a teacher. There are also other occupations like soldiers, firefighters, and policemen that perform physically to save the life of others on a daily basis. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the 2014 median compensation for a general surgeon was just under $400,000 a year. The firefighters, the men and women who run strike in the fires, risking their lives to save others, make only $45,000 per year. Compared to them, professional athletes being paid millions or even billions of dollars each year. Shouldn't this life be more worth than entertainment? Well, that's all from me. Thank you.
Oh, very good. And last but not least, Farhanah, what do you think about it?
Famous soccer star, and I believe money should be spent on athletes. The first reason for that is that sports garner recognition and prestige. Recognition would allow people around the world to identify a community or nation from previous knowledge. In order to maintain this prestige and reputation, effort and funds should be focused on athletes for them to further develop. Without adequate training and equipment, athletes won't be able to get the most in increasing their skill and training development, which then leads to athletes not reaching their full potential. Therefore, money should definitely be spent on the nation's asset, which in this context is athletes. Secondly, sports require an amazing amount of hard work and dedication. Being part of a sport takes hours of training, which requires strong willpower and hard work, especially when it's professional. Being an athlete is not easy, and not many are able to withstand the harsh training athletes go through daily. The physical, mental, and even financial burden athletes go through can become very draining and could even take up most of their life. spanning from childhood to even beyond adulthood. It is not rare for them to burn out, give up, and even quit, as it can become too challenging, too much of a risk, and too tiring for most. Therefore, in order for these athletes to keep going, financial support should be provided for these individuals to continue their career paths in sports. Sadly, sports are a healthy form of entertainment that inspires people. In this mundane society where life can become a little dull, entertainment is now an essential need for human beings to stay sane. Sports are a great and healthy form of entertainment as it inspires others to keep in shape as well. Apart from that, sports can also inspire those to watch and even take on a sport or further focus on health benefits. These sports can spark a health habit for both the athlete and the spectators. To make sure that this continues on, money should be spent in the sports area to ensure that this form of entertainment continues to inspire healthy habits.
Wow, I like your opinions, Farhanah. The opinions given by our four beautiful guests are very cool. What do you think, curious? Do you have a different opinion? If you have, you can